tap my pen on the desk. That's all you're going to get for a gavel crash. So good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I know. It's not quite the same as when we're all together in the room, but we're going to try it one more time. Okay, ready? With alacrity, celerity, and enthusiasm. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're doomed. What can I say? All right. So the first thing I want to do is say, do we have any new members attending the Zoom meeting today? Or do we have any guests? I see Aaron Moore has his finger pointed at me.
And unfortunately, I'll have to change that. This George Herzog. This was a name that was given to me when I was on another Zoom meeting. I was put in charge. So George Herzog. I'll go ahead and change
George. That. Okay. George, I'm Bill Herrick.
Yes.
I'm the co-founder of this organization. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, we have a process that we do. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is what kind of Macintosh or Apple equipment you have and use or want to use, and what do you use it to do?
Okay, MacBook Pro, 13-inch. It's about 7 or 8 years old, and I use mostly Microsoft Office applications. I've done a little iMovie when I had some 8mm film and VCR tapes transferred, and on a PC I do computer graphics, 3D engineering, software design engineering on a PC.
Are you doing CAD CAM or are you doing 3D print?
I took a course down at Sinclair years ago on AutoCAD, and since then I've taught myself Rhino or Rhinoceros, which uses a little different math basis. Instead of vector symbology or vector math, it's splines, but it's the same type of thing essentially.
Okay, so are you an engineer?
No, I got a physics degree way back, and got a management degree at a UD later after working on base for a while. Retired from the base, was in program management.
Okay. Program management, not procurement. We're talking about program management, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're not some of the people I've sent an RFP and RFQ documents to. Good.
Well, I was in right field, and their charter was acquisition, which means development and procurement of aircraft for the Air Force.
Okay, but you weren't one of the floors. FTD?
No.
Okay, good.
You're a SPO then?
Yes, SPO, exactly.
SPO.
Hey, George?
System Program Office, yes.
George.
Yes.
This is Mark Georges. I'm the guy you conversed with.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark.
So did you get your external hard drive problem fixed?
I actually ordered another one because this is the drive I was working with. You got it taken apart and looked at the bottom, and the connector was on the hidden side of the circuit board, and I decided not to proceed any further. But for everybody else's benefit, it seemed like it was a mechanical problem because I could press down on the connector and get it to work, but then it would drop out.
Okay.
Yeah, quality soldering in Shenzhen province, probably. Okay. What, if anything, do you not do now that you want to learn how to do?
Not anything in particular. I am going to get back into iMovie, and it's one of those skills I've learned. If you don't use it regularly, you lose it. So yeah, I was pretty adept at it at the time, but I want to still do some transfers for the family photography and movies.
Okay, so are you semi-retired at this point?
Yes, I am retired. Totally retired.
Okay, now, Kathy Toller. He's a guest, right? He hasn't joined the club?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay, so then what I would normally do if we were doing the physical meeting is, George, is at that point I would say, okay, everybody welcome George. And at the break, if somebody comes up and wants to borrow money, just tell them no. Okay. So with that.
Welcome, George.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Found us.
From one George to another.
I'm going to try to find out how to change my name. I did it once successfully, and I didn't take apparently, so on a previous meeting. So I'm not Aaron Moore, but George. So I'll
Okay.
remedy that sometime.
Okay, so with that said, I'm going to say we got the welcome out of the way. So now we're going to go in and we're just going to talk about the agenda. We don't have a novice group today because we're doing Zoom meetings. So we haven't done a breakout for novice group since we stopped doing physical meetings. The main presentation, I've got good news and I got bad news. The topic is a great topic. It's all about Big Sur, which is the latest Mac operating system, Apple operating system for Macintosh computers. The bad news is I'm doing the presentation.
Oh.
So with that said, so then the next thing we would move on to is news items. Now, if I can share my screen for just a second here, you got me set up so I could do that, Rick?
I think so. Let me make sure.
Okay, I'm going to click on share screen. It says host disabled, participants.
All right, I'm going in. Hang on, I got to go into security and unsecure that.
One of the
Try
things,
it now. Try it
while
now.
I'm doing that, I'm just going to talk at George for a minute. So one of the things I like about this group is we learn something new in every meeting. So the metaphor, the paradigm that we're using for these meetings is if you get enough people in the room and you got a question, there's somebody who's had that problem that's reached a solution. Of course, they give you 5 minutes of, all the false steps they had. So you just tune them out for that. And then eventually they say, and then I realized, and then you write down that and try it yourself and see if it works. So are we ready for me to share at this point now?
All right, should work now.
Okay, I want to share preview. Let me bring this up. I want to share preview, open system preferences. Okay. Allow the apps below. Click. Okay, unclick. This is a brand new Mac setup today.
Just look at the screen a little closer. We'll look at your eyeglasses, the reflection.
Hey, come on. All right, it's not going to let me do it. Let me try this. Yeah, I broke my usual rule, which is, all right, come on. I know that's an admin account, and I know that's the password. Okay, hold on a second. All right, I'm going to do it without that, and then I'll probably drop off for a little bit to just say deny for right now. The point I was going to make is quite a few people have called me, rattled my cage about they got a dialog box that came up, and it says, thank you for using Adobe Flash Player. And it's a black screen with the red Adobe logo on it. It's got 2 buttons, remind me later or uninstall. That is actually a genuine dialog box from Adobe. As of December, Adobe Flash is deprecated. That means it's no longer a viable piece of software to use. And they want people to uninstall it from any of the devices where it is currently installed. So that's the only piece of news I have for everybody. Does anybody else have any items they want to share? Going once, going twice. Blump, 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 blump. Okay.
Microsoft Edge for the Mac, the browser.
Yep. What do you want to tell us about it, Shauna?
That it's out and available, and kind of a surprise that Microsoft decided to create it for Macs.
Yeah.
They had deprecated Internet Explorer years ago.
Yeah. Microsoft Edge is built on Chromium the Chromium browser, which is what Google Chrome is also built upon. They learned that their software architects really were not able to do what the free open source software community could do. They're running their own spin on it, but Microsoft is in very, very fierce competition with Google for advertising dollars that search engines generate. And the default search engine for Microsoft Edge is Bing, which puts money in Microsoft's pocket. And the default search engine for Google Chrome is Google, which puts money in Google's pocket. So they're putting it out wherever they can. There's currently a beta version of Microsoft Edge for Debian-based Linux operating systems. And there also is a version that has been released for Unix operating systems. So it's all about the money, Shauna. You go where people have money and where people will search.
So I use DuckDuckGo as my search engine, so I'm not giving money to either.
I know.
Same here.
In terms of stability, though, Microsoft Edge as a web browser is less memory intensive than Google Chrome. I'll open up the same web page in Google Chrome and in Microsoft Edge, and I'll get the warning with Google Chrome that it's using a lot of energy and it's really not doing too good. And maybe I want to close that web page. And I open the same web page with Microsoft Edge, and it just cranks along like it's Firefox Mozilla. So they're actually doing really well in terms of their WebKit that they're using in Microsoft Edge. Okay, anybody else got any other news items?
I got one. Just CES starts on Monday, so there'll be a boatload of news of all kinds of interesting stuff starting Monday. I already saw one today. Kohler is now got it, and this is for you, Mark. Kohler's got a new set-in voice-activated smart bath, and you should get that right away and hook it up to your smart home. But they've already announced that. It costs a lot of money.
Okay. Again, with CES, Sam, it's a virtual show this year.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure how they're doing that, but Samsung has announced that their latest OLED television screen technology, they've got one that they're going to display that is 210 inches.
Yep. I don't even have a wall big enough.
It's thinner than the previous one they had that was 150 inches.
Who's got a wall that big?
Yeah, right.
Well, back in the day, they used to have this thing called Times Square in New York City, and they would put multiple television screens and then broadcast an image that sort of filled all the screens. And then as they got bigger and bigger screens, they could reduce the number of TV sets they had to have up there. So maybe they're shooting to have like one TV set lashed to the side of the skyscraper to do the advertising displays. Again, a lot of the signage is now going to just straight LED screens rather than having something that's, neon or whatever the other techniques are that are out there. Okay, anybody else got any other items? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, so I'm going to say we're done with news. To the best of my knowledge, there are no Java updates this month. And let's see, that's just my attempt at humor. It seems like every month there would always be a Flash update and a Java update. Well, now Flash is dead. Java's still there cranking out. Okay, I didn't see any emails this month from folks that have stuff that they have for sale or that they're looking for. But I'm going to see if Dan Wyckoff, are you still there, Dan?
Yep, I'm here.
you have any items that you're attempting to, really nice, previously owned items that
Gently
are
used and not abused. Yes.
Mhm.
I actually have a lot of free stuff. If somebody wants any old install media, I mean, we're talking, tiger, leopard, waybacks,
We're talking
anything.
like Panther, Jaguar, Cheetah, Kodiak.
Well, maybe not that old, but I mean, I've got plenty of old install media here if somebody has any use for them. And then I've also got a free copy of Disc Warrior. Free copy of Disc Warrior 4. And then I had one person interested in this bamboo, the Wacom bamboo tablet, but I haven't heard back from them. So this is still available. It's about an 8x10 tablet, and it's a USB connection. If anybody has problems using a mouse and wants to use a tablet instead, that's probably like $20.
Okay.
Did you get rid of the graphics card, the HD?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I still got that here.
Well, I was just looking at the stuff you just sent me on the list. So you haven't gotten rid of anything off that list?
Nope. I still got the full complement.
All right. Well, it'll come out again today then.
Okay. So Mark, you have all this stuff documented so you can send it out to the members?
Yep.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do next month, since I'm presenting next month, so I've basically got control over the meeting, is I might show some of the sample cables that I have that are free for the asking. And if I show them, I'm sure it'll be like, the puppy that you hold up on the screen. Somebody's going to want them. Plus, we can also use it as a training event, because that way you'll find out the real name for some of the cables that you have probably in your cable box or bag or bags or boxes. Yeah. Just a quick vote of hands. How many of you have more cables than you actually use? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, moving right along. Anybody else have any freebie items or for sale items?
I still have that Apple Pencil, the first generation, if anybody's interested.
Okay, say that again, please, Rick.
I still have that Apple Pencil, first generation Apple Pencil that I talked about last month. It's on the list that Mark put out last month.
I still have it.
Okay, so I'm going to say we're done then with for sale, wanted, and freebies. Help desk. Okay, George, this is where we let people who have been having issues go on about, what their problem is, and then we see if anybody in the group has a solution for them. Okay. Oh, I got to say hi to Derek Chang.
Oh,
Hi,
hello.
Derek. How are you doing? Okay.
Hi, I'm doing fine.
We always pay more attention to the new members. Okay, let's do help desk.
I want to thank you.
All right, Kathy Toller, were you just saying hi, or do you have a problem?
Well, I am a problem, but yes, I do have a couple problems. I had a really bad computer day yesterday. I'm wanting to go ahead and upgrade to Catalina, and then it tells me to go to the App Store, but it says I cannot connect to the App Store. So I'm in a catch-22 situation.
Okay. There's a couple ways we can solve that problem. The first one is there is an Apple support tech note, which has quick links built into it that let you go directly to and download Catalina, Mojave, and I believe High Sierra. And I can send that to you if you want.
Okay, I got on some of it yesterday, and I just could not, nothing worked. I was like dead in the water.
Okay, you do know that Apple had outages yesterday.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that Okay. There's a there's a website that I go to whenever I'm back in the day when I would physically go to someone's house to help them with their computer issues. The first thing I would always do is check the Apple status dashboard. And it's about 50, 60 items that Apple provides. Like the iTunes store, the audiobook store, the music store, all these different things, iCloud syncing, iCloud Drive, all those sorts of things. And they were having issues yesterday with the App Store. It's not clear whether it was malevolent or not. You might want to try it again after the meeting.
Bill, we have to leave. We have another meeting we have to go to. But thanks for everything. We'll see you next month.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, Kathy. Bye, Vic.
Bye.
The second way we could go is if you want, I can email you a copy of the installer.
Yeah, because I was able to download the combo 15.4 or something like that, but it said that I needed it only.
The combo is not going to let you install Catalina. You have to get the actual Catalina.
Well, that's what I found out.
Yeah.
So
no, what I'm going to suggest is that I send you that link to that Apple support website item that'll let you directly download the Catalina installer. And I'm going to also make a note here that I should send that same link for Mark Georges to put into the after meeting mailer.
that'd be good. But
Okay.
you're saying that the App Store was down yesterday?
I don't know what was going on with the App Store, but they were not letting you get in very well.
Hey, Bill, if you're going to send me something, you need to send it before the end of the meeting because I have to bug out very soon after. So it'll be tomorrow if you don't send it to me.
Okay, well then I'll just send it to you tomorrow, and we'll just send it as a supplemental to the members.
This is for Kathy Toller. I've submitted my dues randomly. Is there any way that you can send out to all or just to me? I know it's an 8-month lag when my dues are due.
Guillermo is the one who's the membership, and he sends out the invoices. Guillermo, do you have?
Yeah, didn't you get one during this last week? Because everybody should have gotten.
I got it.
I got it.
If they're not due, they wouldn't get them though, right?
Well, they would have gotten them. Okay.
This went to everybody told when ours was going to be due, even though it wasn't due.
Right.
When was your original due date?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I'll send you one.
Hey, I'm turning 80 next month. That's way beyond my comprehension.
Okay.
David, I'll
August.
David,
no, I'm not due.
You don't do the age thing as an excuse. No excuses. Doesn't matter whether you're 80, 90, 70, 60, just no excuses, okay?
Check with Guillermo. Anybody who has questions on their membership, check with Guillermo, because if you pay me, I automatically send an email out saying that I've received your check, and that Guillermo, I copy Guillermo so he can update the membership list.
By the way, thank you, Guillermo. We appreciate you got us billed.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
That didn't quite answer my question.
You didn't get one, huh?
Well, you did. I am trying to
answer.
If it's not due yet, you don't have one.
Okay, well, what I remember is we're going to have an 8-month lag. Is that not correct?
Correct.
And I looked at my checkbook. The last time I think I paid y'all was either December or January.
Hey, you're not due to pay until September of this year.
Okay, yeah, David. So you won't get an invoice until September,
All righty.
Or probably August, you will get one.
August, September, when you'll be notified.
Okay, thank you.
Are we resolved now?
So one other thing, thank you to the board about the contributions. We really appreciate that.
Oh, and I did check as of this morning, all 3 checks have been cashed, have gone through the bank. So they did receive them.
Excellent. Okay, just a note, George Herzog has managed to find how to change his name.
Yes.
So I'm thinking we have a new help desk resource that we can use. Okay, moving right along. Anybody else have any issues this month?
Lenore?
Question.
I
You
don't
got a
have
hand
an,
up.
I don't have an issue. I just have one question, and that is, I have one 27 Sierra desktop and 3 regular sized desktops. No, two more desktops and 1 laptop, and they're all 3 of them are on High Sierra and 1 of them is on Sierra or maybe younger. I get few, if any, updates, and I'm wondering if I don't have security coverage for High Sierra anymore, and should I be updating?
Sierra and High Sierra are still supported by Apple.
Okay.
The real security and privacy changes have been in the Safari web browser.
Okay.
So since it's using an older version of those, you don't get updated.
Okay.
If you can move up to Mojave or Catalina and you don't have any 32-bit applications that you need to keep using, I would strongly recommend that you move at least the one that, do you do any online banking or anything like that, Lenore?
Yes, I do.
You want to do that on the desktop that has the latest Apple operating system. Okay, so if you've got something running Snow Leopard, don't do your online banking with that.
Okay. All right. But all my word processing and with the reason we haven't updated is because it changes. It was major changes, wasn't it, with Mojave? And I will lose like my Microsoft Word Office.
If you go to Mojave, you have to be using a modern Microsoft Office. So Microsoft Office 2011 will not work with Mojave, Catalina, or Big Sur.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
There are alternatives, though. You have both Apache OpenOffice and LibreOffice. They work for the Mac. It's like going back to Office 98. Office, last century. You don't have all of those tremendous galleries crowding your screen, all the stuff you don't use anyway. So it's Apache OpenOffice and LibreOffice. Okay.
Thank you.
And they can open and save out in current Microsoft Office formats. So that's what I usually do.
All right, my laptop is a late 2011, early 2012, but Mark put in, I guess you just put in more memory a while back, but will that laptop be able to go to Mojave?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you're basically you're going to be able to go up to High Sierra, and that's about it.
And that's where I'm at with all of them. Okay, thank you.
32-bit processor versus 64, right?
I'm sorry?
There's a 32-bit processor, which is what you're using right now, just like me. It's when you got to make the jump to the 64-bit processor, you lose all that old software.
Going to make a correction. Okay, the processor the processors in the Macs have been 64 bits since
Well, okay,
something. It's the software.
you're right.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The legacy early Intel 32-bit software.
Okay.
Okay. Not the central processing units.
Okay. Thank you.
Mojave also required a different graphics card as well. You have to have metal compatible.
That's true also, yes.
Okay. So I got to spend some money.
And I'm not I'm not allowed to say the word Linux, that there's
No, you're not.
all Linux operating systems and continue to run this stuff for years and years. Okay, so I didn't say that. Okay, anyway, moving right along. Anybody else? Help desk item? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we got nobody else for help desk. All right, we don't do a raffle anymore. Do we need to take a short break before we do the presentation?
We did last month.
I'm gonna say let's just take a 5-minute break. That'll give me a chance to go wash my hands.
Me too.
Hey, Bill,
Yes, sir.
if you start the main presentation early, Elton's going to bitch at you.
Yeah, that's right.
But Elton's in Florida for 2 months, so unless he sees this recording, hello, Elton.
Well, okay, just this, Elton, I really appreciate him for the true rare flower that he is. But what was it like? I want to say it was around Thanksgiving. I drove by Elton's house. He was out with his wife walking. I waved at him, and I got this look like he had no idea who I was. Okay, and with all the Apple stickers I have on my car, I mean, he should have been able to figure it out, So I'm not quite sure if. Oh, okay. Anyway, so
Couldn't see that far.
say my emotional state is also so fragile that
We're going to be back at about 1/4 till.
Right now, according to all the watches I've got in the room, it's 10:33. I'm going to say 10:45.
Yeah.
At the latest. Okay, so if you folks want to continue to talk, chit chat, that's what it's all about. I'm just going to mute my audio and my video for a little while, and I'll be back.
Here we go.
Okay, what do we got? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had to switch computers. My Big Sur install was not treating me well. Okay. All right, thank you all for leaving your warm, cozy homes and coming out today to the Shepherd Lutheran Church for our meeting. Oh, crap, that's right. Everybody's still sitting in their jammies at home. All right, in any case, the topic today is Big Sur MacOS 11. What do you need to know about it? I'm your presenter, William Herrick. I'm a co-founder of the organization, and we're at general meeting number 301, 2020. And let's move on down here. I got to change my view, so we're only doing single page. Okay, so first thing is there will be some supplemental materials. I've already sent them over to Mark Georges. He'll be sending them out to all of the members. So we've got, by supplemental materials, these are PDF documents with a lot more detailed information. The first one is how to prepare your Mac to upgrade to macOS Big Sur, the ultimate guide, and that's from the Mac Security blog. The second one is how to upgrade to macOS Big Sur, and that one is from the mothership itself, Apple support. Then I've got a Big Sur review, which is from CNET. Another one that is a review, and that one, if I remember correctly, is from The Verge. And then I have another one from 9 to 5 Mac, which is, should I upgrade to Big Sur on my Mac? The answer is yes for most folks. And then the last two are support documents from Apple, how to use the control center on your Mac, and how to use widgets in the notification center. So those are two of the improved features of Big Sur. So first and foremost, what is Big Sur macOS 11? Well, very simply, it's Apple's latest operating system for Macintosh computers. It is also the first operating system to support Apple Silicon. These are the new processors that Apple is using in their desktop Mac family going forward. Not just desktop, but the whole Macintosh family. These are for the Macs that are going to be using the Apple-designed ARM processors. All right, so this is a big deal. I'll just say that twice. This is a big deal. The next thing that you need to know about Big Sur is that applications that are compatible with Mojave and Catalina work with Big Sur just fine. So if you're already at Mojave or Catalina, don't worry about checking whether your programs are going to work. They will. If you're on Sierra or High Sierra, you need to check and see if those applications are true 64-bit applications. If they aren't, you might not want to go up another operating system. And then last but not least, this is a free macOS update, and you get it from the Mac App Store. Okay, so what machines are compatible with Big Sur? If you've got a MacBook 2015 or newer, it'll work. If you've got a MacBook Air 2013 or newer, it'll work. If you got a MacBook Pro late 2013 or newer, it'll work. If you got a MacBook Pro early 2013, won't work. If you got an iMac 2014 or newer, you're golden. If you got an iMac Pro 2017 or newer, you're still good to go. Mac Minis 2014 and newer, you're golden. And Mac Pros 2013 and newer, they will work. So it's important that we always sort of put things into context. So where is Big Sur in terms of Apple hierarchy, Apple tradition, Apple history? So let's just look at the operating systems for a second. So back in 2000, they made the move from Mac OS 9 to what was called OS X 10. And you had the beta, which was Kodiak, and that was followed by the first release that was official, which was Cheetah, and that was followed by Puma, and that was followed by Jaguar, and that was followed by Panther. All of these operating systems ran on PowerPC processors. PowerPC processors that were either made by Motorola or IBM. But right about that time frame, Steve Jobs was getting really annoyed and irritated with the folks at IBM because these PowerPC processors that at one point in time had really beaten the pants off of Intel processors just were not up to snuff compared to what Intel was producing. So then we had the release of, in 2005, OS X 10.4 Tiger. Tiger was the first of the Apple operating systems that ran on both a PowerPC processor or an Intel processor, because Steve Jobs was kicking IBM to the curb and was planning on using IBM processors from that point on. So Tiger was followed then by Leopard. Again, it came in two flavors, PowerPC or Intel. Then 2009 rolls around. Apple has made their transition completely over to Intel. They were not shipping anything at that point that had a PowerPC processor in it. And they came out with macOS 10.06 Snow Leopard, one of my favorite operating systems of all time. It really was slick. They really had everything down that you could possibly want. And built into Snow Leopard, they had the ability for the operating system to manage central processing units that were multi-core. So this is when we started to see CPUs that weren't just a central processing unit, but rather central processing units that would have 4 CPUs in them, or 8 or 16. And Snow Leopard had built into itself the ability to manage it. So think of, if you will, a typing pool, old style typing pool. You know, there's the room full of the ladies with their typewriters, and you'd have the typing pool manager who would walk along and say, well, you know, Darlene, I noticed you're doing your nails. Here's some stuff for you to type. So it would be able to do load balancing among those cores. This was then followed by Lion in 2011. Okay, now something else happened in 2011. Steve Jobs died. So a lot of the things that would normally have been decided by Steve Jobs just were sort of put on hold because they didn't know what was going to happen with him. Then Tim Cook came in and took over, and he then really moved the company forward. A lot of stuff that had been deferred, a lot of people that needed to be shifted around. Tim Cook's in charge now. He cleaned house. He got them moving again. So then you had in 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015, all of these operating systems released tickety-poo, one right after the other. No delays, no hiatus, no waiting for Steve Jobs to sign off on something while he was getting his cancer treatments. Well, what was happening also during that period was Intel was not making the advances in processor design that had been promised. And this was something that Steve Jobs already had put into place a rule of thumb that they were going to follow as a company from that point on. And with Intel not meeting or exceeding their expectations, they started to put something else in place. So if you remember, there was this small thing that Steve Jobs introduced that was called the iPhone. And, you know, didn't really change much in the world at all. Well, that iPhone originally had a custom-made processor that was not from Intel. And Steve Jobs really wasn't comfortable with having to rely on just that one other company for their iPhone processors. So he was looking around and he saw that there was a very interesting architecture for processors called ARM coming out of the United Kingdom. Now, the difference was with ARM processors, you could create your own design. You license the architecture, but you create your own design and you have somebody else make it to your specifications. So that's when they started to have these custom-made ARM processors in the iPads and in the iPhones. And Apple learned a lot as they were doing that. And they became quite proficient in creating their own designs for these ARM processors. So when we got to the 2014-2015 timeframe, Apple really felt confident that they could take their technology that they had learned in making ARM processors and apply that to their Macintosh computers. Now remember, up until this point, the iPhones did not have the same power as a full-blown MacBook Pro or an iMac. But as you get into that 2015 framework, 2016 framework, they were getting there. They were getting to where they had that capability. So they continued through 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 to get all this stuff sorted out. And then in 2019, 2020, they started to work up the actual production of ARM processors that they were going to introduce in 2020, which is what they did. So that break that you see between 2019 and 2020 is really very significant. And the way that Apple signaled that to the world was, you'll notice that Big Sur is not macOS 10.16, it's macOS 11. So it's meant to be a transitional operating system. And it, again, is the first one that can run on this Apple Silicon, the M1 chip, as they call it. Okay, so let's get back to Big Sur. New features. Well, of course, the first thing is that macOS 11 Big Sur is going to support Apple Silicon. So this operating system, Big Sur, can run on Intel processors, and it can run on those M1 Apple Silicon processors. Let me go back for just a second. So if you look at that transition period between PowerPC and Intel, which was back in 2005 to 2007, you can anticipate that we're going to see the same thing again. They're going to give us about 2 years, 2.5 years, where they'll produce operating systems that work still on Intel and they work on the Apple Silicon. So, but figure somewhere around 2023, 2024, that's when they're going to drop support for the Intel in their newer operating systems. Okay, so what does that say? That says if you want something that's going to be running the latest and greatest operating system in 2025, you don't want to be buying an Intel processor machine from Apple. You want to be buying one of the Apple Silicon machines. And they've got more in the pipeline coming much, much faster than anyone anticipated. Okay, so other new features. There's a new control center that gives you quick access to settings and controls. Now that's up in the menu bar. It's a little widget up in the menu bar. When you click on it, you can get to things like your sound volume. You can look at your Wi-Fi settings. You can look at whether you're doing Apple Share, if you need to do AirDrop to send files, Bluetooth, all those sorts of things that used to have separate little widgets up on the menu bar. It's all combined into the control center. And you can break them out and put them in as you wish. Another item is full-size sidebars across applications. Notifications grouped by app. So in your notification center, instead of having separate notifications, they're grouped by the application. So again, it makes it a less chaotic, more coherent design. Much easier on the eye, much easier on the mind. It's a really well-designed operating system from a user interface viewpoint. They have 3 new widget layouts that they've included. Widgets and notifications can be combined within one view. You have translucent dock icons and the menu bar, rounded corners across windows and app icons. It really is a gorgeous, from an aesthetic viewpoint, it's a gorgeous looking operating system. And then last but not least, Catalyst, which is a software technology, allows easy porting of iOS apps to the Mac. So to give you sort of a foretaste of what's coming, pretty soon you won't have a Mac app store and an iOS app store. You'll have the same application will run on your mobile devices, your iPads, your iPad Pros, your iPhones, your watches, as run on your MacBook Pros, your MacBook Airs, your iMacs, etc. So that makes it much, much easier for the software design folks. All they have to do is just take into account the things that the application needs to know about screen size. But the same basic code can run on an iMac and it can run on an iPhone. Very, very important. Okay, getting ready for Big Sur. Well, it's as easy as downloading an installer from the Mac App Store and then double-clicking that app. With that said, if you go to the App Store and it takes a look at your Mac and it says it can't run Big Sur, you now know that you've got a machine that's reaching the end of the line in terms of newer operating systems. It's probably already up to the highest that it can run. Now, there are some things you can do before downloading Big Sur to ensure your Mac is ready and the upgrade goes smoothly. Those things are detailed in unbelievable granularity in those 2 documents that we'll be sending out to you, which is the upgrade guide from the Mac Security blog and the upgrade guide from Apple Support. And I won't try and do that here, but it's pretty much the same stuff that we saw with Mojave and Catalina. You want to make sure you've got a good Time Machine backup or a carbon copy cloner backup or super duper backup, but you want to have a backup of the machine, and then in case something goes wrong, and that way you can quickly recover. And that's about it. I'm going to say that's the end of the presentation, and we'll be open for questions. I'm going to close this out. Okay, I can tell everyone is just tremendously thrilled with the depth of that presentation.
No, that's good.
One of the things that I've learned is that typically I try to pack too much into a presentation. And so that's why I send the supplemental materials. That way you've got it in hand, you can read it yourself, you can have it up on the screen as you're doing things, and you don't have to go looking up on YouTube to get that, freeze that frame in YouTube of the meeting to get that one shot where the one piece of information you need is displayed.
Very good, Bill.
Okay, who have we got questions from?
I have a question.
So do I.
We'll go to George Herzog first.
Good.
You need to unmute everybody, Rick.
They got to unmute themselves. All I can just tell them to unmute, but unmute yourselves quickly before you ask questions.
You have to unmute
George Herzog.
Okay.
There we go, George.
There you go.
Yeah. And is this recorded on the website to go back and look at it again?
Yeah, they'll be recorded.
Okay.
So do you have a question, George?
No, that was it.
We didn't hear it.
Cool.
So I will go back and look at the video on the website.
Hey, Bill.
George, do we have your email?
I believe Mark has it.
Okay. Mark, I'm going to say let's break with tradition, and if you could include George on the what you send out. So George, you'll have a copy of the presentation and all of those supplemental documents.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you need does anybody else need my email, or is Mark?
We'll get it later.
Okay.
We actually know how to do that stuff with emails back and forth.
Okay.
I think Larry's next, and then John.
Okay, what you're kind of telling me is that I'm about at the end of the zone here, I'm going to have to upgrade. So I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. I've been delaying because I got a lot of legacy software that I run a farm with, Yeah. So I'll prepare to get ready here.
Okay. How old is your equipment, Larry?
Well, I'm basically they're about the 2013 era. I have a book, an iBook here with me in Florida, but I also have an iMac at home, and essentially they're all, they're very compatible, those two. And it's just obvious to me. I'm gonna, even though I got my with me, I've actually, with the backup, I'm walking around with my 26 inch right now. Even though I run it here on my little 13 inch. So
the thing to keep in mind, Larry, is that sometimes when you need to keep legacy software, what you do is you basically say, okay, this machine I'm going to freeze in time, and it's going to have my legacy software.
Right.
Then you buy a newer device and you use it for your web stuff and your.
And that makes sense. What I think I'll do is, keep my existing iBook, or maybe the iMac, and it'll be my one that I use for the stuff. Because I got such old. You'll love this. I use version 7 of Quicken because I don't need the newer stuff.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense to me.
I've just hung on to it because I don't have to learn anything new, because all I really do is it keeps the books for me. I don't need all the fancy bells and whistles about the downloads and all that kind of stuff.
And I still run an Apple II Platinum with AppleWorks.
Oh, okay.
Because I've got stuff I wrote back in the day that I use for, let's just say that nobody else wrote software to do what this stuff does.
Okay.
I only fire it up maybe once a year, but I still keep a 30-year-old computer running. Okay.
Gotcha.
Let me add just one other thought, and that is for people that are on a budget, they don't have the money to buy a new machine. There are other options, but it means that you have to switch to a different operating system. So, for example, some of the older Intel Macs can run Windows 10. Okay, and there are ways to install Windows 10 on it.
Right.
No, I'm not going to stray into the forbidden territory. I saw Mark George's.
Yeah, I thought you were going to use the L word.
No. Okay, anybody else got a question?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go for it.
Me?
Yep. Yes.
I just bought a new MacBook Pro, so I want to probably bring some of the programs from my main computer, which is Sierra. For example, I guess I'll have to re-download apps, but say the Safari bar and so forth. Would I just be putting?
Let me stop for a second, Hat.
Sure.
Okay, so this is where we do the interrogatory. Okay, when you say you have stuff on the older machines that you want to put on the new machine, are we talking about things like your favorites and bookmarks that were in web browsers?
Correct.
Or various settings for emails and passwords, that kind of stuff?
Yes, or mainly just the bookmark bar, that sort of thing.
There's a program in the utilities folder on your new Mac and in your old Mac, and it's called Migration Assistant.
Okay.
And Migration Assistant will let these two machines talk to each other and will allow information and settings to be copied from one to the other.
Okay.
And programs.
Oh.
Okay.
Like my apps.
Yep. And what really floors me is Migration Assistant will even work if someone is moving from a Windows machine to Mac. a lot of their user settings and programs can be, well, not so much programs, but user settings can be moved over.
Will they work, some of these apps on
the ones that won't work, it won't move over.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Then you look and see, okay, what came over and what didn't, and you verify things are working correctly. And you look at what's missing from the list. In some cases, if you purchase them through the App Store, the Apple App Store, you can download them directly to the new machine, and it'll be a version that the new machine is going to be comfortable with.
Okay.
Other cases, if it comes from what's called a third-party vendor, it'd be like you collect Christmas ornaments and you've got software that was written by this small company to manage your Christmas ornament collection. You would go to them and say, hey, you have a version that works on this newer machine.
Really? Okay.
Okay, so again, migration assistant.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with borders or walls or anything.
And it'll work through a network, right, Bill?
It'll work over a network. Sometimes we end up with problems of directly cabling things because the new machine doesn't have the ports to plug in a cable that the old machine had.
Right.
So you can do it via a network. So in other words, you have them both logged into your Wi-Fi access point, and then you turn on the migration assistant. You launch it on the new machine and the old machine, and there's a process you go through.
Okay.
Well,
you got to put the number that appears on the screen of the old machine into the box on the new machine. So that way they're confirming that you have physical possession of those two computers.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. Anybody else?
Bill, John Halpin.
Yes.
I think you're recommending that we upgrade our iPads as well.
iPad is a different operating system. So that would be iOS it would be iPad OS as opposed to Mac OS. Big Sur is for the Macintosh computers. So that's the iMac, the MacBook Pros, that stuff. It's not for the iPads. It's not for the iPhones. It's not for the watches. It's not for the Apple TVs. It's not for any of those. But again, if you have an iPad, if you have a phone, I really do strongly recommend that you keep it on the latest version of that operating system.
It's stable.
Yeah. And it's also because of security and privacy improvements that they've put in.
John was next.
Okay, who's next?
John. Did you have some? Yeah, John's next, and after him is Dan.
Yeah. Bill, I thought that was a great presentation, especially the chart with all the OS stuff going back to 2000, because God knows most of us can't remember back that far. So anyways, that really highlighted a lot of things and even made me think more about the fact that since I have to upgrade my current hardware because it's ancient, I also, I need to do the computer, and probably while I'm at it, I should probably upgrade my Apple router that I have, which I guess is not supported anymore. So I probably, like Rick says, go to something that's a whole lot more.
Or the flat Apple airport. They call them Apple airports. You have the one that's like a cube, and then you got the one that's flat, like a
flat. It's the flat version.
Okay. My recommendation is, since Apple doesn't make airports anymore,
right?
They don't support them really anymore. and that the Wi-Fi encryption protocols on those are not up to snuff anymore, yeah, that's something I put on a priority list to cycle out.
Yeah, you got me thinking about that whole thing, and I don't know whether anybody else is in that potential predicament as well. But so the computer and the Wi-Fi are probably moved right up to the top, and then of course my software is so ancient that by moving to Big Sur, hopefully I do that at the same time that I got a new computer. But I would also want to go to carbon copy and make all those upgrades too. So anyways, that's got me really thinking a whole lot more that I've got to do in order to move into the 21st century.
Now, John,
yeah.
First, let me just say thank you, because you reminded me of another scenario that I didn't mention, and that is you have a Mac, it's running, it's doing everything you want, it cannot go up any higher in terms of the operating system, and you say, oh, well, I'm just going to stick with what I got, and then you find out that when you want to do your income taxes, the tax software won't run on your computer. So that's the other way that we get obsoleted.
Yeah.
The vendor of the software says, we're not going to write anything that'll run on that machine.
Well, like I said, my hardware is ancient, my software is ancient, and the only thing more ancient than those two is me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm not kidding about that.
Well, when I was putting together that list of the Apple operating systems, I took out a lot of stuff, like the code names they would use for it. But there was an emotional result that I did not anticipate. I put it together and I realized that I had worked with this stuff all those years, and I started to feel really old. Really old.
Well, you are. You're joining the club.
Trying to ignore it.
You're joining the club.
Well, that's why we have to stay together as a group, because it seems like it's getting to the point where we're going to have to take all our brain power and add it together to make one brain.
Multi-core.
Yeah, multi-core. There you go, Dick.
So, John, I would just remind you there's a lot more hive insects on the planet that have been very successful in terms of evolution for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and they tremendously outnumber us. So if we become a hive, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well, do you ever think about it?
There's security in numbers.
Yeah. Do you ever think about it? I'm so old that my kids or my grandkids think I'm as old as dirt,
All right, we got two more hands to move to. Dan, you want to go next, and then we'll go to Dick?
Yeah. On the migration issue, when I migrated to Mojave, I had something of a similar problem, and the way I got around that was my legacy software that didn't have anything that would be compatible. I created a virtual machine using the old operating system, because Parallels will let you install Mac operating systems on a Mac. And so I just installed High Sierra in a virtual machine, and I run my old software virtually.
Okay, so this is what Dan's bringing up is one way to go. I don't recommend it for everyone, but the concept of virtualization is very, very important. Okay, one of the ways that Microsoft is making money like you wouldn't believe is through a platform they have where you can create virtual machines to run your website or to test software, or just because you didn't want to buy some more computers and you've got too much activity to handle with your current data center. So this idea of you're creating a computer virtually just with software. The one day I have a 2011 iMac that I'm on right now. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. And I said, hey, I wonder how many virtual machines I can run with this thing that can interact with the internet and actually be still usable. And I got up to about 22 different VMs running. And I had some running Windows 98, and I had some running Windows NT, and I had Linux distributions running, and I had Windows 10 running, and I even had a couple of Mac operating systems running, which was violating the license agreement, but it was just for a test. And I suddenly realized that the day of big hardware is almost over because of the virtualization you can do.
I will have to also make a caveat that virtual migration assistant will not work between a virtual machine and a host machine.
Yes, true. Yeah. There are some restrictions, but if you have something, you have a program that you to run that normally would run on an Android phone, and you want to do it on your Mac, you can run a version of Android in a virtual machine, and it thinks it's an Android phone as you're using that one program. So, the day of my having 20 and 30 machines sitting in the basement, each one running a different operating system, that's long gone. Now I've got maybe 5 machines, and this one's running, 4 different flavors of operating systems, and this one's running another 4 different flavors of operating systems. Now, I don't expect normal people to want to do this, but one of my obligations as your leader is also to stretch you conceptually. The idea of being able to do stuff in a virtual machine is an important concept to at least have in your toolbox. Okay.
A license for Parallels is maybe $50 versus $1,000 for a whole new machine too.
And there is an open source piece of software called VirtualBox, which is from a small company called Oracle that will do much of the same stuff that Parallels does.
All right, we got one more. Dick.
Yeah, I wish I'd heard your presentation before I did this, but I just finished migrating to Big Sur on my MacBook Pro yesterday from Catalina. And I just had a couple of things I wanted to mention that I noticed in the process. I mean, it went pretty smoothly. It just took a lot of time. And as many of you know, my internet access I'm kind of bandwidth challenged when it comes to internet access. And with COVID restrictions and such, I don't have access to a lot of other alternate locations that I could go to with my MacBook Pro and do this download. But in previous operating system updates, the download installer program was on the order of 6 to 7 gigabytes in size. This sucker is over 12 to begin with. And I noticed at the end of the installation process, or during the installation process, even after I had finished downloading the software and was running, there was a time frame where the progress bar was 100%, but it was still doing something in the background. I could see the download gate display I have in my menu bar was showing continuing download over the internet, or let's say not download, but communication. So I think the installation of Big Sur requires a good internet connection at the time you're running the installer, and there's some kind of communication going back and forth, because when it was all said and done, and I checked my usage from AT&T, my usage had gone up over 20 gigabytes.
Mhm.
So, you know, that I was already above my monthly cap anyway, so it really doesn't have much of an impact on me. But be aware that, I mean, if you're in a situation like I am, where you're getting your internet access through a cellular connection, you know, you may have some significant impacts to your monthly usage that you need to be aware of. And secondly, on another subject, based on your presentation, Bill, I think you ought to think about writing a book about Apple history, because a lot of us would like to have that kind of information for like a reference volume sitting on the bookshelf.
All right, Lenore, you're next.
No, Rick, you took care of it. I'm sorry, I should have.
All right, we're good. Give me a call or drop me a note if you have any further questions on that.
All right, thank you.
Kathy.
I've got a question for Bill. With Big Sur, are there any glitches that you've noticed or any blips in your system that they need to fix?
Well, I had one this morning, which is why I had to switch computers. I wanted to be on the one running Big Sur so I could demo the changes in the menu bar in that. And what I was getting was a very, very strange glitch in terms of the account security. I would log into my administration account with the password. But when I would try to unlock stuff in system preferences, it wouldn't accept that same password as the appropriate password. So
sounds like a radar.
So my first thought was, okay, I'm on a wireless keyboard. The keyboard's acting up. So I swapped it out for a wired keyboard and rebooted, got the same result. So I now have a Mac Sur box upstairs. I got to figure out what the heck is going on with it. I think it's because I originally only used a 4-letter password, and the requirement, I think, is 6 or more characters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I've noticed. The other thing is now this was not an iMac like David Jones. This was on a MacBook Pro. When I put Big Sur on it, it took it almost 15 to 20 minutes at first boot after install for the desktop to rebuild. And I still haven't figured out what was going on with that. I decided it was a failing internal hard drive, so I swapped it out for an SSD after cloning and such, and it came right up. So it appears that Big Sur really works much better if you don't have a physical mechanical hard drive as your for your operating system, but rather either a Fusion or a solid state drive.
Okay. But you haven't noticed anything that would stop anyone from switching up?
Most of the time, the previous, I blew away the Big Sur install I had on that iMac and did it fresh so that I would have something that was not customized at all by any of the stuff I do. And my initial response to Big Sur was, wow, this feels the way that Snow Leopard did, that they crossed the T's, they dotted the I's, they put the graphic design into it. It was a pretty operating system, really it made computing fun again for me. So I have a lot of good feelings about Big Sur. I just got to figure out what happened with the account security the problem that I'm running into right now.
Kathy, I'll add, I installed it on my wife's MacBook. It's the only computer I got in the house right now that I can put it on. And it's worked great. It's been solid. The times I've used it, I have not seen any issues. I mean, it's really been nice. I like the way it looks too. Like, I agree with Bill. It looks really good. The design is solid as a rock. I really like it. So it worked good for me too.
Yeah, well, when I was looking online for my Catalina, they kept saying, hold off, don't do Big Sur for yet. wait.
You get that every year. I think there's some people that, depending on what software you use, you got to make sure. I know some people that do a lot of video work, particularly video production of YouTube, of audio work for podcasts, and they use Audio Hijack. And there was some concerns. Audio Hijack came out and said that they had created a compatible version. Then they said, oh, well, hold up, because it's not compatible. I mean, there's stories like that out there. Things did happen. But the stuff that my wife uses and I use, it's not been a problem. You just got to make sure if you got some special software you use, some unique application, then you probably want to check. And that's the same every time now.
Okay.
Yeah, when 11 first came out, there was something that the developer of Carbon Copy Cloner put out recommending that we wait because there were some changes made that would affect Carbon Copy Cloner in a significant way. So I waited till 11.1 came out. And now Carbon Copy Cloner's made adjustments, whatever they had to do, and it works just fine. But when you run Carbon Copy Cloner the first time after upgrading, you have to agree to some changes to the methodology that was used prior to Big Sur. So there's some changes going on there.
Yep.
I want to say thank you, Richard. You just gave me a path to go. I don't think I took it to Big Sur 11.1. I think I've just got the original Big Sur that I downloaded previously. So that could be why I got the trouble I got.
Maybe.
You're still going to check with somebody to see if the desktop download is being experienced by others?
It's been solid, everything I've heard. I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody I talked to that's downloaded has not, since that initial problem, there's not been any problems that I've heard of. Bill, anything you heard of?
Yeah. Well, the installer is much smaller than, it's not like previous installers. Previous installers, everything was in that huge package that came down to you, the 5-6 gigabytes. With Big Sur, because it's got to handle two different types of processors, it is much, much larger.
Very big.
Okay, but it's only bringing in the pieces that it needs. So the package you download is 5 to 6 gigabytes, the installer that kicks everything off, but then it starts bringing in lots of stuff. Dick, were you putting it on one of the Macs with the Apple Silicon processor?
No. It's a 2016 MacBook Pro.
Okay.
But the other thing I did too is once I download the installer, I did not run it right away. I created a flash drive with the installer on it. There's instructions out there on the web you can get from various sources about how to create a bootable drive. Basically, you plug it in and you run it from this, because I got 3 computers ultimately that have to be upgraded, and I don't want to have to go through the download process multiple times.
Yeah, the person that I used, his method to create where you could install it without having a network connection. It works with Mojave and Catalina, and he says he hasn't figured out how to do it with Big Sur yet.
Right.
It says to me that Apple's not letting you have all the stuff in that first download.
Right. That's why it ended up going from 12 gigabytes to 20 plus.
Yeah.
By the time the process was complete.
I have done a Big Sur install on a Mac Mini, not mine. I haven't bought one yet. That's got Apple Silicon, and the installation process was about half the time that it took for this 2020 Apple Intel iMac. So I'm thinking maybe they've got Big Sur for installation on the new stuff, and it brings in all the Intel if it can't find the new stuff.
Yeah. I think, George, did you have something? Somebody else had their hand up for a minute and put it back down, I think. Are we all good? Oh, there, Ray, it was you.
Well, I just wanted to put in here that I'm not coming up on the screen, am I?
Yeah, I see it.
Excuse me for the poor lighting conditions. I upgraded to Big Sur right away. because an Apple advisor said that will solve some problems that nobody could solve with the previous some of my applications with the previous operating system. And what kept echoing in my mind as this young lady was trying to convince me I should upgrade was our commander-in-chief that was putting the program on. His words always echoed in my mind. Don't upgrade to the new one right away because of this and because of that. And here Big Sur was fresh out of the box, and she kept convincing me, so I have trouble not listening to a pretty girl. At least she sounded that way.
I want to add one more of my idiotic adages to what's already in your brain. And that is, I never install a newer operating system to solve problems, software problems on a current operating system. You want to make sure you've got a good, solid, working operating system before you do an upgrade. So they misled you, I think. They did not serve you well.
Well, Bill, I was actually having trouble with applications within a perfectly good operating system. I upgraded, and I can find no fault with any of my. I've only had a couple of really old things that are finally, I just deleted them because they weren't working anymore. And another thing,
is it possible you installed apps that were meant for the newer operating system?
No, I don't think so. It's some stuff I had for a while, and it kept. I don't even remember the details. Kind of when I get something fixed, I just forget about it. Another thing, though, that I'll bring up for everybody, and you probably know the address, there is a setup Zoom thing where you go in and you open it up and you can play with all the features of the Zoom system, and it's a test area. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. Then the only thing I can do, because I can't dig that exact address out, and it's super simple, I'll email it to you, and next month
it would be great, because I got to hone my Zoom skills a little bit here.
Well, yeah, this is primarily for your end of the thing. It doesn't help you too much with other people, but it's still a big step. It's so you can set up the screen the way you want it and so forth. I was hoping to, if you can see my finger pointing at my head, the top half is dark. So I want to adjust my lighting in here and whatever to just get a better picture. And those people behind you are not really working. I think they're just listening to you, and they're you know, and boy, they're dressed nice. Do you have a dress code where you're at?
This is why I need a new office manager. They just stand there. I think they're just staring at their phones instead of hand loading those magnetic tapes on the tape drives and feeding those Hollerith cards into the card readers.
Oh, I thought those were all
that was
frisbees.
your new basement, Bill. I thought that was your new basement.
Those are all Russian spies, and they've infiltrated TMG.
I admit, I plead guilty to having had a pair of VAX mainframes in my basement at one time. And I also plead guilty to having PDP 16 mini computers in my basement at one time. But that is long gone. That was the 1980s. I have moved into this century as much against my will as possible.
All right. I think that's everybody. We're good, Bill.
So,
No, Libby.
okay, I was just looking at Dick Rathburn for a minute. I thought he had a ski mask on, and I realized that it was. How you doing, Dick? You hanging in there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna keep you on mute, Dick. This is
okay. I'm good, Bill. Thank you.
This is how we play games with people. You ask people questions, and you make sure they're on mute. My plan is next month then to talk about. Oh, let me just set the stage. This year, 2021, my theme is back to the basics. All right. I'm convinced that even if we knew the basics back in the day, we don't remember the basics of stuff anymore. And so being a teacher, I know the only tool I really have is repetition. So next month, we're going to be talking about email. It's going to be conceptual. It's not going to be, oh, what key do I press to do this? But rather the basic concepts of email, how it really works, and the ways that you can send and receive email. Okay, so with that said, are we near to, oh, we got 10 minutes left. Anybody else have something they want to throw out on the floor for another 10 minutes?
Hello?
Mark, I'm going to stop the
I have
recording.
a question.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Am I on?
yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you spoke about the password security thing earlier. I want to know what's going on if this is not Apple, but I have a problem with what you call logging in to some sites like a T-Mobile or ATT Uverse, and I found out when you do the user ID and the password correctly, it still says wrong, and you have to do second time. Would you tell me if that happened to you people, and why should that happen?
Okay, I've had that happen where I wasn't really logging into the website I thought I was logging into. Okay, in other words, I fumble-fingered it, and the web browser took me to a lookalike that wasn't the real site. But the way you tell if that's happened is they'll prompt you to, let me think, No, they're just capturing the information that you're typing into. So what I always do now is I use a modern web browser where it does that validation check. With Firefox, with modern Safari, modern Google Chrome, you'll actually see in the box where it's showing the URL, there'll be like a little validation check that's next to it. The other ones, when I can't get it to work, most of the time it's that I've got keycaps turned on or my keyboard is messing up. I've had that happen twice now with cheap USB keyboards where the keyboard is crapped out on me.
One I've seen is extra spaces as well. Space at the end, space at the beginning, something that, it's not supposed to be in the field.
Yeah. The keyboards that crapped out, when I put them on another device to actually look, and I actually put it on a keylogger to see what it was actually transmitting. It turned out that for every press that I hit the key, it was doing 4 of that character. So if the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, it was doing 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. You got the idea. So is that of any help to you at all, Derek?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Because I have checked those, where the URL's real addresses and all this. I was very careful in checking it out. And that's not the reason. I'm not so sure what it is. Okay. But it had happened
the other thing,
maybe it's I don't know, something else.
I've learned to do is if I know the password I'm putting in is correct, and I know the username is correct, it might be that there's something wrong with my internet connection.
Yeah.
Which case I will reboot my router, my internet router, and turn the computer off, turn it back on, basically wipe the whole slate fresh and start over again. Now, I've only seen that happen on Spectrum. I haven't seen it happen on when I was on AT&T DSL in the past.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Derek. I know I didn't really help, but at least we conversed.